What's happening, roadies? Welcome to episode number 83 from Anaheim, California. This is your host, Larry Milburn. What a week, man. My first Namm experience. I can't even begin to tell you how incredible this was. Just seeing people that have been on the show that I don't normally get to meet in person because we've only done a Skype call, that was incredible. Meeting people that listen to the show, folks like you out there, wow, I don't even know where to begin. I have to thank right off the bat all the folks on our team that helped us out. Paloma, Charlie, Gina, Roberto. These guys worked their tails off, lugging gear left and right and turning this footage around and everything. Big, big help. This was an amazing experience. It validated what we do. We're gonna keep doing it. So stay tuned, stay with us. It's been awesome. The panel we did the first day was Keeping Concerts Safe. I have to thank Heather Rafter from Rafter Marsh for inviting me to co-moderate this panel with her. We had an hour. We basically barely scratched the surface on this thing. I have to thank our panelists right off the bat. Dean Correa, Lucie Barinkova is front of house for a bunch of bands. She's out there touring. Dean is the head of security for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. From Quanergy, we've got Akram Benmbarek, great guy, super cool technology called LiDAR. Check it out, look it up. You'll learn more about it in the video. So we had Officer Mike Downing, Special Agent Mike Downing. That guy was super cool. And finally, we had Jesse Hughes from the Eagles of Death Metal, who obviously, as I've said and as you know, the issue of safety and security for him is an utmost, and it means something very personal. We were able to get in and film a quick video with him, which we did. That starts us off. It was an amazing time. We had a great discussion afterward. I have got to thank everybody here at Namm and at Freeman AV for helping us turn this video around and getting us the footage so we could get it back out to you guys this quickly. You guys rock. I have to thank our sponsors who also help support this video. Sound Girls, Load-In International, Telefunken, electroacoustic microphones, and of course, Air Turn Solutions. You guys, I don't even know what to say. Enjoy this panel. Please let me know if you have any questions. Stay tuned next week, episode number 84. We're inching our way to episode 100. What's coming up? I don't know, but it's going to be something good. From Anaheim, California, thank you, folks. No roadies, no rock and roll.
My name is Heather Rafter, and I've been an attorney in the pro audio space since I began as the first lawyer at DigiDesign, and that would really date me, but it was in the 1990s. And if you want to know more about me rather than take up time, please go to www.raftermarsh.com. Someone who works with me, Jessica, can raise her hand. The only legal thing I am told to say, in addition to the antitrust announcement, was this is such a sensitive topic, and we have a lot of people here who are going to give their best advice. But it is not legal advice. It should not be taken as legal advice. It's their thoughts on how we can address a very, very critical topic. And as for someone like me, I put this panel together, and we'll talk about it in a minute, who's on the panel. Excuse me, I tried to choose the best and the brightest. And David Schwartz, I want to thank him for letting us start the dialogue here at Namm. And he wrote a very good intro for what I believe is the topic that we're going to address in 50 or 55 minutes. So let me read that, and we've got some other very interesting things to cover with you today. So the title is Keeping Concerts Safe. After this, there's actually going to be a mentoring session where we're happy to go one-on-one and talk about specific issues if you have concerns about your own safety at a concert or how to set up security at a venue. Come talk to us. Just by way, before I start off on what I was going to read, how many people are here because, like me, they love live music and they care a lot about safety at concerts generally? Okay, and then how many are here because they work with bands or artists or promoters and want to get tips on how to secure perimeters and follow protocols and things like that? All right, well, that's really interesting that we have more people who are here as a general interest topic. That's where I come from. So we'll be sure to gear it to that. And then hopefully when we do this again next year, we'll have more people in the dialogue who are coming to learn how to set up things in accordance with protocols. All right, so the little blurb. No one would have predicted the terrorist assaults on concert venues of the past 2 years. Tragic, frightening, and something we don't really want to think about. but we have to. What can be done to make the concert environment safe? Our panel of concert and safety professionals will define the vulnerabilities and discuss the methodology to prepare for and defend against the worst case scenarios in music. So each of us are going to tell a little bit very quickly about our personal interest in this topic. I work with a lot of bands, and I know a lot of the folks who are on the road, the crew on the bands primarily. I help work for the companies who get them the gear, and I'll never forget one of the very saddest days of my life was the day that I heard Tom Petty was dying, and flew out to Vegas, changed. I was in New York and quickly caught a plane to get to Vegas to see a good friend who was on that crew. And then as I was driving in tears about Tom Petty, and I'm going to start crying again, so I'll try not to, I happened to drive past Mandalay Bay where the shootings had just occurred, and I thought, this is an industry I love so much. So piece by piece, we're going to try to cover the big topics. But today, we're talking about security at concert venues. And that's my personal mix. And these are all friends of mine, and I'm glad they're here today.
My name is Larry Milburn. I'm the host of the podcast Roadie Free Radio. On the show, I interview people behind the scenes of the music industry with a particular focus on the touring live professional. So I go around and sit in the back of a bus or a loading dock or a stage and interview front of house people and whatnot, and get to know them and care about them. And this is a topic that is obviously very timely and concerning. And I want to take a sec just to thank everybody who agreed to be on the panel. We had several other folks who wanted to be on the panel and help us out, but there's only a certain amount of time. And I also want to thank Jake Digby.
Yes, can I help you with
You
this?
can, absolutely.
I got it in my emo moment and I forgot about that. I want to thank Jake Digby and Scott Adelman, who are here from Event Security Alliance. They're over there and they're going to join the mentoring session.
Jim Digby and Steve Adelman, thank you very much.
Is that what I said? No?
Jim and Steve.
And we are here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
And we also have Anthony Burnside of Ronin Security Group. And did I say that correctly, Jess? He couldn't be here, but he has sent some messages to us, which we're incorporating. And I also really want to thank Pete Beatty, who runs a group called NPMG, and he shared with us some security protocols you're going to see today. I really want to thank Larry's crew, who are taping this, Paloma, who has been here from the start. Where's Paloma? And most of all, David Schwartz of this group for letting us put on this program.
So we live in a new era of concert or live entertainment insecurity, I'll call it, and we have to accept that. And the first part of that is coming to discussions like this and hearing from these great people on tips and ideas of how to protect ourselves and our loved ones, as well as the entertainers and the folks that run all these amazing shows. So with that, I'd like to go around and hear from each of the panelists and let them introduce themselves to you and why personally this topic is important to them. And then we have a special guest, Jesse Hughes from the Eagles of Death Metal, who could not be here today in person, but we have a video from him and we are going to attempt to Skype him in for the discussion as well from Seattle, Washington, where he currently is on tour. So without further ado.
Hi everybody, my name is Mike Downing. I was a deputy chief for Los Angeles Police Department for 35 years. I retired in May. The last 10 of those years I ran our Counterterrorism and Special Operations Bureau. I'm now working as a chief security officer for Oakview Group, Tim Lewicki and Irving Azoff's company, and I also run their security arm, Prevent Advisors. It seemed like a good fit after 10 years in the counterterrorism special ops discipline because it seemed that as this threat was evolving from a centralized to a decentralized threat with the fanatic adversaries spreading out across Europe, North Africa, and the United States, and the potential return of foreign fighters, that the targets had changed as well, from iconic, symbolic, to military targets, to police targets, to what we refer to as soft targets, places of mass gatherings of people, shopping malls, train depots, stadiums and arenas, and about the 10th day I was on the job, Manchester happened. And so it's a good fit for us. We do everything from vulnerability assessments to red teaming to tabletops to training. We have an alliance of stadiums and arenas across the country, and we're building 2 new arenas. And I believe that it's ultimately going to get better, but it's going to get worse in the next 2 years. And I think inside the United States, it's still considered a low volume but high consequence threat. We have a lot more volume in Europe and the United Kingdom. But it's here. The ripple has hit our shores. We're going to see it a little bit more, less sophisticated attacks, but those active shooters, because we have 438 million guns in our country. Vehicle ramming is going to increase. 17 people and 700 people. 17 people have been killed and 700 people injured in the last 3 years with vehicle ramming techniques from terrorists. We're going to see more of that. Vehicle bombs, suicide bombs, and I predict, unfortunately, we're going to see weaponized drones in the United States in the not too near future.
My name is Correa, and have been Tom Petty's security director for the last 24 years, and for Fleetwood Mac part of that time. So I'm here because I really see that the future of making this safe for everybody, and the best way to go about this is the liaison between local law enforcement and the touring entities themselves, and hopefully a series of protocols defining, and well thought out protocols defining what is the best way to go forward to protect everybody. During that time, we haven't really experienced anything more than the traditional issues that happen at a show, which are people coming into uncredentialed into secured areas, and traditional just issues with the audience, with drinking, I think, and some counterfeiting in terms of credentials and that sort of thing. So we've had it pretty good, but obviously things are changing, and I know even though everybody's focus here, I think, including ours, is what's happening with the terrorism threats, there are a lot of other issues to security, the audience's comfort, and access, and those different things as well. But I'm basically here to discuss what we can do about the increased threats that we have.
My name is Lucie Barinkova, and I'm a touring production manager and also a tour manager. I've also been an audio front of house engineer, so coming from the touring side of everything, and I've had many people that I've lost at the Bataclan, some people in Manchester, and I deal basically with the band and promoters directly, like Dean, trying to find new solutions, how to keep specifically the band safe in moments like that.
Thank you. And
Hello.
we have a twist on our panel you wouldn't expect. And I had the joy of speaking with Akram and knowing his company for many years, thinking it was only going to revolutionize how we drive cars. But now I learned it's going to hopefully provide a solution to concert security. So I hope you all will find this very interesting addition to our panel.
Thank you, Heather, for trying to make it easy on me. I have to work, as Heather mentioned. My name is Akram Benmbarek. I'm the outsider here, on the boring side, not belonging to entertainment. Work for the startup that Heather mentioned, Quanergy, a Silicon Valley company with the mission to save lives, save resources, and save time for people through what we call LiDAR technology. LiDAR is known for being a key technology to enable self-driving cars, but it's also a technology that can really help us be safer in many ways. I don't want to steal the introduction time to explain, but I look forward to sharing more details with you today. Thank you for having me here.
Okay, we have Jesse, we believe, on standby on Skype, but before he knew he could do that, he created a video for us on Sunday, thanks to Paloma, and thanks to my good friend Leanne, who knows him, and reached out to him to participate in this panel. Thank you, Leanne. And we have Jesse speaking to us.
Hi, I'm Jesse Hughes. my stage name's Boots Electric. I'm in a band called Eagles of Death Metal, and I'm unable to attend the panel in person, so it was very important to me that I at least have some sort of message or some sort of input on this incredibly important and pertinent topic. I believe that I have a unique perspective that gives me some insight directly into some of the particular security concerns that we have going forward into the next, decade. So that being said, I will explain a little bit of my background. Around 2 years ago, I was performing a show at a theater called the Bataclan in Paris when terrorists opened fire, killing 89 of our fans. The event lasted 3 hours, roughly, and many atrocities were committed. And I was in the building for a grand total of maybe 35 minutes before I got out, between 20 and 35 minutes. And in that time, I saw a lot. And I kept my head up and I was very alert that night. And I think that there are lessons to be learned from this experience. I want to say that I believe whatever you do and conclude today, please be willing to modify even your own personal and popular politics if it's required. Be willing and available and open your heart, because really it's what you need to do to really and truly the goal of accomplishing the task at hand, which is security in the rock and roll or live music environment. The ability to be secure within the confines of the artistic world which we've created. And remember, in my opinion, I think that the arts is where we take all that ugly stuff and we reduce it to a show. This is what civilized people do. And I believe that if security is really your intention here, then a dedication to making a stand. Let's draw a line in the sand. Let's make a point and let's let it be pretty far where we're not going to tolerate any further harm to us, if you know what I mean. Nobody's going to have all the answers, but there have to be some changes in the way I think we think, maybe a little bit, and in how we approach things. And maybe I also have some beliefs that maybe each venue could adopt countermeasures. I hope you guys are going to talk about something like that. Like, for example, it would be interesting to look into the possibility, since we're all lighting experts and sound experts, if we had a button you push that set off strobes that would nauseate, or loud sonic booms to disrupt, or automatic bright exit signs that can be shined in an instant. Because when the attack happened in Paris, for example, the lighting girl, because she was scared and didn't know any better, turned the lights on. And instead of helping anything, it made everything worse. Because, as you know from going to a live show, the lights go out and the exit signs are illuminated. And the only reason why you're able to find the exit signs is because they're illuminated. And they're illuminated so that anyone can find them. But when the lights go on, they disappear. And people familiar with the venue who knew where the exits were in the dark were suddenly lost when the lights came on. And it's a very bitter irony to have the lights coming on be the thing that makes it worse, but it is. And when I say have a willingness to accept things that maybe even our own popular politics might suggest differently, be willing to do that. The only thing that stopped these bad guys once they got their way in, once they were in, the only thing that stopped them were some of the fiercest police officers I've ever seen with their guns. So let's let the bad guys be the bad guys and not be the only thing we demonize, I would suggest. Other than that, I can tell you that I saw the most beautiful examples of humanity in the very instances of that attack, that rock and roll or live music or the artistic community, whatever you want to call it, stepped up in a way that I've never seen in my life. I saw the most sincere and beautiful, truthful acts of love, compassion, and camaraderie and Philadelphia's brotherhood that I've ever seen in my life. So I want you to know that as the result of a terrorist attack, I know that the world is a beautiful place, that it's filled with possibility, and that it's worth dying for, and I've seen it. So this issue of security is important, and let it really be important. No one else has to know. Just open your heart and be willing to do the right thing, because sometimes that takes the most courage of all. And God bless you all, and long live rock and roll.
All right, thank you, Jesse. So are you going to start off with following up on some of the points?
I sure am.
There you go.
I am indeed.
Larry?
So one of the things he said, I'm going to paraphrase, was how can we be secure in the confines of the artistic expression? So I'm going to throw that to you, Mike, first. And maybe you can give us some ideas, some tips, because the majority of the room that joined us today are more interested as concert goers. So what can we do as average citizens going out to live entertainment to be better prepared?
Yeah.
I just want to say I asked a San Francisco police officer this very question, and this is what he said I should do. You tell me if this works. Ready? I'm at a concert, I hear something. I just hide behind the taller person.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Is that a good one?
It's a good one. It's a good one. Well, first I'm going to start out by saying, and I'm not going to embarrass she or he, but you have one of the best intel analysts on this planet in this room right now that is kind of fighting for what we're trying to protect in terms of this adversary. Unless he or she wants to raise their hand, but I'll leave it at that. But for a concert goer, really it's the idea that, you know, we can no longer leave it to somebody else. We can no longer say that the government will take care of this, the police will take care of this, the private security will take care of this. I mean, they do the lion's share of the work, no doubt. But it's a new era. The threat has evolved. It's current. It's serious. It's not going away anytime soon. So we have to ask ourselves, what part can we play in this? These arenas and stadiums should have a suspicious activity reporting campaign. Concert goers should know what is unusual, what's suspicious, and how to report that. They should have situational awareness to what's around them. What is the ingress? What is the egress? What's the difference between cover that will stop a bullet or a knife or a weapon and concealment where you hide? And hopefully have confidence that the leadership in the stadium and arena have good, solid doctrine, policies, and procedures where their staff are trained and they practice this through tabletops and exercises as they go through that. And in our country, we use the run, hide, fight scenario. That, you know, if all effort should be placed on the prevention side of this equation, but if we have an intelligence failure or a security gap or vulnerability that gets tripped and tested, and we have a crisis and there's a response, then know where to run, know where to hide, and for God's sake, don't lay there and let the assailant shoot you. In this country, we say it as a last resort fight. Now, Europe and the UK, it's run, hide, tell, which is okay, but my advice, not legal, but my practitioner's advice is if you ever get in a situation where we have an intel failure or a security vulnerability that got tripped, and you're in a crisis, know your surroundings, know your ingress, egress, know what cover concealment is, run, hide, and fight.
Would that, for example, in this room apply to run would be knowing where the exits are, correct?
Well, those are ingress and egress points, but behind you, you have concealment and you have other exit doors as well. So if I was in a position to run, I would run straight through there and out those doors.
We're probably going to get to this when we talk about emergency response procedures, but just generally speaking, do you think, just as we had that nice antitrust tutorial to start our program, do you think when we go to a concert, there should be some announcement talking about what you just said?
Yeah, and even if it's 30 seconds, a safety coordinator, a safety officer, You know, when we have pre-planned tactical events with the police department, we have a designated safety officer. It's his or her sole job to ensure everything that is done, whether it's equipment, uniforms, tactics, etc., is safe and within policy and procedure. Likewise, in a stadium and arena, before a show gets started or an athletic event, it makes so much sense to have a 2-minute safety briefing. It raises everybody's awareness. It gets them in the game. It may not make it the absolute priority because entertainment and music's the priority, but it makes it a priority.
It's not too dissimilar to how the events of 9/11 changed the course of how we travel in today's world, right?
Correct.
We accept the fact that there's TSA, whether we like it or not, we accept it, and perhaps there is room for this in what we do now.
Yeah, I mean, look, in the end, what I'm going to say might shock you, but I don't believe that terrorism, criminal enterprises, transnational organized crime, drug cartels are the enemy. I think for us, the enemy is complacency. And we have to look at that and really ask, what does that mean? And find a way to lead beyond the walls of our own discipline or our own institution and practice good, smart safety practices.
Lucie, I'm wondering if I can put you on the spot real quick. Sorry, wondering if I can put you on the spot real quick. You stand generally the front of house position. You see not only the artist, obviously, but you see the average concert goer. And you mentioned some things that you've seen in the past, but I'm wondering if you can talk about as well, what are some of the things just in people's behavior that you think they could do to take care of themselves and each other's a little better?
I mean, I think in situations, it's just sheer panic that is being created when people don't know what they're supposed to do in those moments, and there's no training. We can train the staff of a venue, we can train the band, but you have still 10,000, 20,000 people in a room that have no idea what to do in an incident like that. It's very dangerous in many ways.
Okay. Hello all. We have the band here. Wonderful. So just to quickly bring you up to speed, we heard your wonderful 5-minute narration, and we thanked Paloma for getting that. We started talking with Mike Downing, who ran counterterrorism at LAPD, about what he sees as pressing issues, and we raised some of the points you raised. And Dean just spoke, who's security with Tom Petty of the Heartbreakers. Lucie's front of house for many bands, including Odessa, Thundercat, and a manager. And then we're going to get to a technologist, Akram, who's going to blow you away with what he's going to show you. So if you don't mind just listening and jumping in, we'll let Lucie continue.
Yeah, can you turn your video on? We can see it.
You want to see us, Jesse, huh? Okay, ready?
Here.
You want to, okay, we'll show you the panelists.
Yeah.
Here's the panelists.
That's all right.
Okay, here's the very interested audience who wants to stay safe at Eagles of Death Metal concerts. All right, how many of you are fans of?
All right, I need to
All right. Okay. Now, our only challenge is we have a protocol to show, but that's going to be your challenge, Larry. Good luck.
I don't think we can do both. We're going to have to pick and choose. I think we're going to stick with Jesse. Jesse
And Larry can, and
Thank you, Larry.
Dean can speak to the protocol as well as Mike that we passed around that was provided to us by Pete Beadle.
Well, why don't we jump into a little bit
Thank
about protocol right now, and if there are any standardized protocols in place, and how we can work to do that. We talked a little bit about what the concert goer can do, the average concert goer. What is out there? Are there standards? How can we make them better? Do they differ between domestic and international entities?
Who do you want to answer that?
You?
Okay. Well, there's not really anything standardized across the spectrum of all the venues, and that's kind of one of the things that we're talking about here. Within an organization like Mike is doing, you know, in the buildings that they're involved with and overseeing, then things are standardized there. But what would really help is if we had something, you know, that was general, and so that basically And also just want to make the point, it's not to say that you're under threat for walking into a concert. You know, there's still going to be great concerts with the aesthetic not being compromised, and it's just going to be safer. But I think that, for example, I think the first thing that I saw, and it's also makes a tour manager's job and a security person's job easier, is that the National Hockey League, for one, and there's other sports groups, have, in the last couple of years, have made it mandatory for a building where they play that they have to have mags in the buildings in order to, for anybody that's passing through us to go through. And that is a great thing, and that's an example of it. It's not all of it, obviously, but it's an example because oftentimes when you go to advance a building with somebody and you ask for something like that that's going to cost money, they're going to come back with you that, well, we know our audience, we've been here 20 years, we don't have those kinds of problems here, which is complacency, like you were talking about. And so if we have any kind of an organization that's even like, or it's like some kind of an approval that knows that there are minimums that are met, that are in mags, and that everybody, including vendors and anybody who's working on the stage that enters the building, has to go through those things, then you're moving towards the right things. And there's other technology, you know, that supports all this and the things that Mike is talking about. But frankly, there kind of isn't. I mean, there are great experiences out there. Super Bowl is one. You know, you've got just around the field, the Super Bowl, you see that crowd of people standing there. There's over 3,000 people on the field that have nothing to do with the game. They're not training, they're not cheerleaders, they're just press, you know. So it's a massive event. And that thing actually, which is partially run by the federal government, is, as far as the security, is really well run. With the Heartbreakers this summer, we had a great experience. We had 65,000 people in a park in London. And we had 2 separate security companies and local police involved in that. And they were great. You know, we had exit plans for pretty much for everybody who was there, the audience, and anybody that came into that facility went through 2 sets of metal detectors, which is a good thing for a lot of reasons I won't go into here, but that aren't so obvious. But so there are good experiences out there, but they're not standardized, and that would be the thing. You know, even if when you bought your ticket and you got your receipt, if you printed it out at home, there could be something just on that. They could say, in this venue, this is what you do. You know, written specifically for the venue, so it's clear. And what we were speaking about with the lighting director turning all the lights up so that the exit signs were not visible was a perfect example. You know, those kinds of things made clear to the building. There's cooperation, and then if you're local law enforcement, you have the benefit of their intelligence as well. It's the way forward for sure.
What about Jesse's idea, if you don't want me saying? Jesse mentioned through the lights you may be able to have some kind of, what was the word he used? Countermeasures. Some various countermeasures, but with the lights you might have some kind of blinking effect. I don't know if Jesse has a strobe effect. I always thought, does Lucie or someone know what to say?
Just to light up the exit, because when the lights came on, it made the exit signs disappear. So it suddenly disoriented everyone, almost the way an airline has a light that comes on, it's an arrow to the exit.
So it seems like you could design a light that still is visible when lights are on, right?
Yeah, there's actually a company, a state-of-the-art company called Armored Things that is looking at this very specific issue. Not only lighting, but locks, access denial, and also these lights that lift up from the floors. They give you direction. It's a startup company. We're looking at them, very promising. But Jesse, you're exactly right. That is what's needed in these, is that redundancy if something goes wrong. And there are tech companies that are looking at these kinds of things right now.
I was wondering if something went wrong, is there a way, maybe Lucie or Dean can answer this, is there someone like the front man, Jesse on stage, who could have something told in his ears about what to announce? So in the case, you know, sometimes in these incidents in Vegas, people didn't realize what was going on. They thought it was fireworks. Do you think it's helpful to have a way, of course there's risk to the band member, but to have that be the person who announces to everyone, please, here's what you should do. Like there's no one telling you what to do when a crisis hits. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, I'll jump in, but correct. I mean, and oftentimes, obviously, if there's a shooter, for example, like in Las Vegas, where you basically want to clear everybody out of his sight lines, you can run a voice and an announcement through a PA from a protected location. It doesn't have to be the person on stage.
We'll let Jesse go protect himself.
I mean, that right there is an example. What could be a protocol is that there's a pre-recorded disc or whatever that's in the system that if there's an event that happens, the front of house guy or whoever is designated hits that button and everybody begins their exit strategy. Anyway.
What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, with the Las Vegas case, this guy scouted out Lollapalooza in Chicago, Life is Beautiful before, rented, did a lot of pre-operational planning. And the reason he didn't pick those locations probably is because it wasn't a death trap like like the Highway 91 outside festival was in terms of egress. And that's probably one of the reasons. But yeah, I think those kinds of pre-recorded messages, training, tabletops, staff awareness is absolutely key.
Jesse and you guys, I want to ask you guys, since the events that happened.
Can I?
Yeah.
I wanted to introduce Eddie. He's our chief of security for us at Stone Agent. He's actually dealt with building protocols for plants that have been in an experience like this. So I just wanted to introduce him. And I just also wanted to say, and I agree completely with what the fellows were just saying, but a recorded message would be genius and automatic, like, this is how you get to the exits. They did in the 50s, the Cold War protocols. It's not something that we are totally unfamiliar with. It's something that I think keeps everyone's head. Everyone kind of has to be in the spirit of mind of preparedness in a way.
I'm curious, have you guys changed anything within your organization in the last couple of years? Or implemented anything new as you go out on the road?
Absolutely. I'll let Eddie speak to that a little bit because he's been one of the main, he's been the person that was with us from day one that we landed protecting us, and he had to have some practical considerations that really most cancers don't have.
So, excuse me. One of the things we do is we have EOP systems of anything. So what we do, everything that comes off the truck, even if it's hard, even if your client has pyro or not, everything gets searched. All the facilities get searched everywhere where the client would be, gets searched, and then we move to the area. So we do an EOP system. We always ask law enforcement, even if it's not in the budget, most of my clients will pay for that, and we know where you're going to place them. Obviously, aside from having stringent search policies, it's could be either by pat-down search or by back-to-commenters, you have to make sure that all your and egress are covered. There's multiple ways to look at it. Aside from the patrons coming in after their security, putting centric circles back to the restroom and to the stage, have to go back up. That's the bank testing. Is there a future for client? I have my phone outside of the parental pickup, the safe crossover.
I'm sorry.
Fortunately, that didn't.
I'm sorry. The audio is getting a little choppy. It's tough to understand you, and we're getting a little light on time.
We're getting out of time, but what we're going to do, Eddie, is we're going to call you up and interview you and add you. We're creating a whole, as through Roadie Free Radio, you're going to do a whole site on this, right?
We're going to do a page for this, yeah.
A page for this, and we're going to get the dialogue going. So if we could interview you, that would be a perfect add-on. And we can't thank you and the band members of Eagles of Death Metal for taking the time to join us today. I know you have a show tonight, so let's just all thank them. And we'll work on solutions. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. I thought also now we could take a quick moment to, before we get to questions, to check in with Akram about the technology that his company is using and developing and starting to deploy right now, and how that might help. It's a quick glimpse into the future. I don't know if you want to talk about it first and then have me put the video, or
Sure.
play the video. You want to talk over that?
I can probably do an intro so people have an understanding.
Okay.
One thing I didn't mention initially is that I lost my cousin in that night when Jesse was playing in Paris 2 years ago. So he was 29, newlywed. He was teaching architecture in his Institute of Architecture in Paris. And this topic becomes dear and dear to me. And really happy that I got a chance to share my side of the story as well. So with regards to this technology, I think in general, technology can really help in several ways. We need to shut all doors of harm and open all doors of rescue and response. And technology can help throughout the process. So first, at the prediction level, there is a tremendous technology in AI, kind of crawling the web for data, for red flags, and identifying profiles, finding messages that give you, give you an alert about potential risk. So that's one aspect of technology. Then you, at the physical level, you ought to secure your perimeter. So that's where also technology can help, and LiDAR, I'll talk about it in more details. And the third layer will be in accelerating the response. So improving prediction, improving perimeter security, improving response speed or speed of response are several layers where technology can help. With regards to LiDAR, perimeter security is one aspect where it could add tremendous value and accelerating the response rate. So how does it work? So LiDAR technology is something that existed, is a technology that existed over the last 4 decades. And like several technologies or emerging technologies, its price made it very exclusive to DoD applications and NASA applications. What LiDAR is basically light and range. It's a laser that flies at the time of flight and gets you the information of any object that it hits and comes back. So essentially what you get when the laser goes out, you get the shape of the object that is detected, the dimensions, sorry? Okay, sure. So the dimensions and also the speed of any object that is detected. So what LiDAR does, it gives basically eyes to machines. Here, what LiDAR is doing, so this is the device that is scanning its environment. So you're looking at a camera illustration here through a thermal camera. You see people coming out, but what LiDAR is doing here, LiDAR is tracking every single person. LiDAR knows every single person that is on the left side, knows the shape of that person, how high, how wide, how deep, the direction they're going, the speed. And what it did here, because we had set up a zone, a security zone, which is that small square, to not violate. This person has violated that zone. It went in. So what LiDAR did, it took that information, it sent the coordinates of that person to the PTZ camera and kept tracking that person inside basically the perimeter. So LiDAR in this specific application is helping you find that needle in the haystack and is not going to lose sight out of it. So LiDAR can help in this case in a concert, for example, by managing the crowd, by identifying, can identify the culprit, can identify the area of risk. If somebody was carrying a weapon over there, I would have known exactly the location. I would have told the security guards, I would have guided security guards to go and respond in a very specific location. So with technology, what you can do first, you can map the environment. You have a 3D map, you have a 3D model of that concert venue. So that actually gets done with the LiDAR. So you 3D map that environment. You have it saved on file on your computer, anywhere else. You detect, first you can actually anticipate threats. You can secure the environment, but if somebody goes in, LiDAR can already inform security guards that somebody has violated an area, somebody is where they shouldn't be, and we're going to be tracking that person until giving you the time to react. With LiDAR, you can also send a drone, even indoor, like a small drone, to basically go to the exact location where that person was, intruder was detected. There is tremendous amount of things you can do with LiDAR, but one of the initial one will be to secure the perimeter. The advantage that you have with the LiDAR technology is that it's that technology that says, I got my eyes on you, but without having my eyes on you. So in a way, I'm not intruding your privacy, but I'm watching you, I'm protecting you. Because here, at some point, I need to be protecting everybody, but I can protect people in bathrooms, right? People are hidden in bathrooms. There is a fire. Because we don't have cameras in bathrooms, we don't know that somebody is hidden. They're stuck in bathrooms in different venues. So LiDAR has this advantage of really giving you the capabilities of detecting, of tracking, of giving you accurate location of the object of interest, whether it's the victim or the intruder, without invading your privacy. So that's one of the aspects I hope we can talk about perimeter security.
So we've barely scratched the surface, but we do have some time for questions.
We have 2 minutes, and then we're going to follow a gentleman, and we're going to continue this in an intimate area if you have time. We're all going to sit down together and speak. And I think the panelists are going to join you. And so we can have a more on the same level discussion. Okay, so questions. Anyone? Ethan.
One of the things we do is we take, like leagues have mandated the Safety Act. In 2002, Congress legislated the Safety Act, which creates indemnification on liability if you can prove that you've developed enough countermeasures to prevent a terrorist attack, which takes care of everything else. I'm not aware of that in Canada, Australia, or Europe. I think one day, since the NFL, the MLB, the NBA have mandated that, NHL is going to go through it as well. I think one day, if these threats continue to persist, you will see artists ask that question: is this arena Safety Act certified? And the certification is good, but the process of getting there is really what answers the question, have I done everything possible? Integration of technology, smart practices, policy, procedure, doctrine, to ensure that we will stay on the prevent side of this equation.